You know, when you find something that you really like, and then you go to the ends of the earth, or in this case, the web, to find something similar to it, well, it's something I've been doing lately for games like Counter Strike and Valorant. The only problem is that a lot of lists show games that are drastically different and aren't even in the same genre. I was going fucking crazy over this. Whenever I find something that captures a similar experience, I also look for what is close to the mark, or exactly like Counter Strike and Valorant, but with some variables that make it stand out on its own. There are already clones or similar games on mobile, but that's a market that not a lot of CS or Val players are even going to tap into, and I can imagine that you're in that category as well. Which is why I've tried to look for what's ahead, finding games that have the same tactical based gameplay that both CS and Val provide in the 5v5 based structure or something close enough to it. It was easier said than done, because so many tactical shooters nowadays not only go for different things, but also deviate from the formula that I was looking for. And mind you, there are some fantastic tactical shooters nowadays like Ready or Not or Ground Branch, Zero Hour, Squad, Hell Let Loose, Insurgency, Escape from Tarkov, Operation Harsh Doorstop, just to name a few. But none of them are anything like CS or Valorant in terms of the multiplayer experience, or just the experience overall. The only thing that they have in common is that they have a tactical approach to their gameplay. And the only other game that I can think of that does follow CS and Val to an extent is Rainbow Six Siege. And technically Overwatch with the ability aspect, since Valorant takes notes from that game and combines it with CS-based gunplay and movement. However, I have found 2 upcoming games that show a lot of promise and are adding their own unique spins on the existing formula that is in CS and Valorant. I wish I was able to find more similar games on the horizon, and I tried. But at this rate, I will be married with kids before I find anything more that isn't on mobile, or a project that deviates too much from what it is exactly that I'm looking for. The 2 games in mind for this video are Havoc and Alara Prime, 2 tactical multiplayer shooters that take notes from games like Counter Strike, Valorant, and even Rainbow Six Siege. Both Counter Strike and Valorant are the 2 giants of the formula that they both share, and if you're outside of the mobile market, you'll be hard pressed to find any other alternatives that hold a candle to those games besides Siege, which is honestly its own beast. The older games from before like Combat Arms, Sudden Attack, Crossfire, or Black Squad don't have the same popularity that they used to, and since free-to-play games have had so much polish in terms of gameplay and graphical quality, those older games are very outdated now, and there's not much of a reason to play them anymore. At any rate, Havoc and Alara Prime are the most promising looking games I've seen so far, and since Valorant has come on board, it's provided fierce competition for Counter-Strike 2, something that is actually beneficial when you get too complacent in the scene. But now I want to see more of these type of games try to create more competition, and with enough care and polish and interest, these games might be able to find their own place in the market. As of this video, I haven't been able to play these 2 games yet. While they are still in development and have yet to be released publicly, you'll have to join their respective communities in order to participate for a playtest. So this time around, I'll be going straight to the point and going off based on my observation of both Havoc and Alara Prime. Starting off with the first game, we have Havoc, a squad-based low-poly tactical FPS being developed by Breakthrough Games. Upon seeing this game, it seems to be a blend of Siege, CS, and Val, but in a low-poly fashion. The gunplay of CS and Val and the destructible environments of Siege have culminated in the creation and ongoing development of this game that we are now looking at. The low-poly aesthetic makes room for the physics to shine when you destroy walls or other objects in the map. Like in Siege, you would create new holes to create new peaks or angles, and the same is true in this game. Even aiming down with the sights, gun control is still going to mean the difference between winning or losing a battle in this game. But it does seem like you can use either type of aiming method to get the job done. It also has a variety of modes like free-for-all, gun game, snipers only, and team deathmatch for those that don't want to just play the bomb defusal mode that is found in competitive play. Havoc has a dismemberment system that adds a layer of brutality to the tactical gameplay found, something that is lacking in any of the 3 games that I just mentioned. You also have power-ups that are in the guise of powerful weapons, like a minigun or a rocket launcher, different attachments for weapons, customizing lobby settings to modify your gameplay if you wish. So this allows for more flexibility if you want a more competitive or more casual sort of experience. And it does seem to try to go for a balance of both, which is a good thing, especially for those that want to get started in, playing these kind of games. Because games like CS and even to some extent Val and Siege can be pretty intimidating at first, but having more casual options is great for those that want to sort of slowly tip their toes into the competitive field. So far, it looks really promising. I like the look of the gunplay. I can imagine that it will have a really good feel to it. Something that is like a blend of CS and Siege, which I really like. And you can try this game out by requesting access for the playtest, but you'll have to wait until the developer is ready for more participants. The developer, however, is pretty active and also has an active Discord community that you can keep tabs on. The game's art is utilized, I'm assuming, for a more optimized performance in the game sessions, and it looks to be the kind of game that you don't necessarily need a beefy computer on, but that will depend on how much an effect the physics and destructible environments will have on the game. As a compromise, I think that there should at least be some options to reduce the physical effects for lower-end PCs, that way it's not too intensive. Part of what makes Valorant work is that it was designed around the idea of being runnable on lower-end rigs. It may not be the most competitively viable option, where high-end rigs and high-end equipment is more of an advantage. It could still work even after you do enough tweaking in the game's settings. And I think in Havoc's case, this will be an important thing to keep in mind if the developer wants to reach larger audiences, especially in places where they don't have access to high-end rigs. I like the look of the movement, the physics-centric gameplay, and the use of manipulating structures to gain advantage, as well as the look of the gunplay and how the weapons seem to handle from just based on observation. There are also skins for people that either gamble in CS or buy skins that they can never sell in Valorant. This game, I think, will be a great alternative for those coming from Siege but want more outdoor areas for a change, and don't mind a dash of Counter Strike and Valorant in the mix. I'm definitely looking forward to this one, and hopefully I'll get to try it out myself down the track and maybe even play a few matches so I can, give more in-depth thoughts on the subject. The second game is called Alara Prime, and it's got a unique spin on the traditional formula this time around. Being developed by Fall Damage, it seems to be a blend of CS and Val, adding in classes with their own unique set of gadgets that can be utilized on the field. Upon seeing the gameplay, it seems to gear more towards the realm of Valorant, given the importance of class roles and utilizing gadgets or abilities effectively. But the real twist comes in how the teams are formed or how the match is formed. Rather than having two teams with the opposite objectives, you have three teams, 2 attackers and 1 defender. You would think that this is a disadvantage for the defenders having to go up against 2 teams at once, but because only one team can win the round and win the game, the 2 attackers will usually end up having to fight each other anyways just to get the uplink. So in a way, it's more of a 3-way fight. The main mode is called Transmission. The defenders establish an uplink and hold it. The 2 attackers go for it and try to secure the uplink for themselves. The attackers that take the uplink then have to complete the transmission to win the round. Afterwards, the teams rotate and the team has to win twice to win the game. Gunplay looks pretty tight so far. It's Valorant but with a bit more mechanical fine-tuning, and the visual aesthetic is pretty nice so far. It actually looks a little bit better than Valorant, but again, it's still early days. We'll have to see what the final product looks like in the end. In it, you also have different characters that are defined by what they were built for. I don't know how far it goes in terms of what impacts the characters will have other than they have different, backstory and context to the setting of the game. Now, if the game blows up and becomes successful and we see the game's competition rise, I can anticipate that this game will have a lot of chaotic matches, and the structural change with the 3v3v3 approach will make for a more unique spin on the CS and Val formula. Personally, this is the game I'm looking forward to the most out of the 2 games I'm showing in this video, and I'm excited to see how the game develops once it's completed. To play the game, you'll have to join their Discord community and keep an eye out for playtests. Graphically, it looks a little bit more intensive than Havoc. Alara Prime seems to be more on the high poly side of modeling on top of higher quality textures, but Havoc makes up for that with its destructible environments and emphasis on physics in the core gameplay. However, the combination of weapons and gadgets in this game will make for a combination of different and unique strategies, especially when you factor in the 3rd team added into the mode, which adds a completely new dynamic to the CS and Valorant formula. This game could potentially get really chaotic, but also strategically interesting at the same time, especially when played at a high level. It could be an amazing game to watch. Just recently, the studio organised a community tournament for the game, and it went really well based on the reception of it. People seem genuinely excited for it, and I'm in the same boat as well. Either way, Alara Prime is definitely a game to look out for, especially if you've come from Valorant. Unfortunately, that's all I've been able to find that seems to really hone in on the Counter Strike and Valorant style formula. I know there are some on the mobile platform, but it's a market, like I've said, that not a lot of PC gamers are even interested in, and with CS2 and Valorant already being a thing, I don't see any reason why they'd go that route in the first place, even with BlueStack being a thing where you can use mouse and keyboard. In saying that, both of these games have been the most promising titles that I've found, that want to make their own mark in the squad-based multiplayer shooter scene that is similar to CS and Val. They are the type of games that have a large learning curve that can be simultaneously rewarding if you have the right mindset for them. Both Havoc and Alara Prime have a really difficult battle ahead of them. Getting a community to come to your side is extremely difficult because of not just the enjoyment of the games like CS and Val, but also the personal attachments that have been developed with those games over the years. It's why World of Warcraft was still dominant during the era when clones would come out of the woodwork to try and be the next WoW killer. Havoc and Alara Prime have their own neat ideas, and those ideas need to be the focus of the game's development so that it can create its own identity. Valorant plays similar to Counter Strike, but it's different enough that it doesn't necessarily replace it. Havoc and Alara Prime look rough in their early stage, but the potential is certainly there. I wish both studios the best in their journey, because we really do need more games to come forward and encourage both Valve and Riot to do better. Hopefully one day I'll be able to cover more promising projects like these games. But if anyone else knows of any other projects that I wasn't aware of, please let me know, and I'll add it to the list for a future video where I find more games like Counter Strike and Valorant. Stay tuned, and thank you for watching.
Add that silverware to the pile.